Kraken's going to be crowning their first ever champion in this 2-day event. A tournament's going to be going on. Would you stop? If you're listening, you can't tell, but he's just over here mimicking me the entire time, but all you can see it on video. I think it's fellows. Anyway.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the 5-Star Jobbers Podcast. I'm Cody.
And I was right about CM Punk.
You were 100% right.
Along.
Yep, you were right. I'll give you your flowers, and I made mention of it in the previous episode. I don't remember which one it was, but you were 100% right. I'll give it to you.
Dude, who in their right mind told them they should show that footage?
Obviously, a complete moron who has no idea how to book a show or book the talent that he already has on the payroll.
I mean, goodness gracious. I already said last week's episode, it would have to be really bad evidence to make it look like. So I was thinking that, okay, maybe they have something really, destructive, something really darning, that's just going to absolutely make CM Punk look terrible, make them look gold. No.
Not even close.
No, they literally show a video that proves him 100% accurate.
See, and
exactly what he said happened.
See, and I was
is
thinking,
what happened on that video.
See, I was thinking that it was going to be like this whole little, I guess, what's his name, Charlie Chaplin thing, where everything's black and white. You got the Young Bucks dressed up as CM Punk and
they weren't
Jack
even
Perry,
there.
but they weren't even there. Nowhere close to it.
Oh my gosh! And oh my god, the Bucks did their best to try to pre-narrate that video before it went live.
They did a horrible, horrible job at doing it.
But good Lord, that video, if you would have just watched that video without listening to anything, you just watch it for yourself out of the blue, you'd be like, it looked like there was an argument.
Yeah.
And that Jack Perry kind of was being disrespectful. And then CM Punk put him in a choke. And within less than 2 seconds, it was separated and done.
And apparently during that time, Tony was afraid for his life.
He was afraid for his life.
Oh my gosh.
I've seen girls' bathroom fights that are more violent than that footage.
Exactly.
Goodness.
But we've got a lot to get into today, but we'll definitely get into that here in a little bit at some point. But first off, thank you to everybody that's been listening. Thank you for subscribing. If you haven't already, go check us out on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and on YouTube. You can find all of our content there from previous commentary episodes and previous episodes on the podcast as well. But also, we want to let you guys know some upcoming events that are going to be going on pretty soon. If you want to check out a local promotion or check out some great shows, check these out right here. April 20th, DCCW Unbroken is going to be in McClenny, Florida at the Baker County Fairgrounds. We will be there doing commentary, so if you want to see us and see some great action, go check it out. There's going to be some incredible people there. Don't miss out on it. Baker County Fairgrounds, 6:30 p.m., April 20th, this Saturday in McClenny, Florida. Also happening this Saturday, a couple other things. Southern Legacy Wrestling is going to be at the Celebrations Event Center in Cropwell, Alabama. Doors open at 6. Bell time is 7 p.m. Also happening April 20th, NHW Bound and easy for me to say, Bound and Determined. Walton County Fairgrounds in Defuniak Springs. I hope I said that right.
Defuniak, yeah, good for you.
Okay, I hope I said that right. Defuniak Springs, or however you say it. Defuniak Springs, Florida. Doors open at 6. Bell time is at 7. NHW Bound and Determined April 20th as well. Also, April 21st, Wrestle South is going to be going on in Albany, Georgia at the YB&B Event Center in the Brooks Plaza at 3 p.m. Wrestle South, April 21st. April 27th, a couple events going on there. Allied Pro Wrestling presents Destiny at the Lee County Youth Sports Complex in Beattyville, Kentucky. Doors open at 5:30. Show starts at 6. Also happening April 27th, Wrestling Against Cancer. Great event's going to be going on in Bay Haven Charter Academy in Panama City, Florida. Doors open at 5:30 and the bell time is at 6:30. Don't want to miss out on that. I just now noticed that you're doing hand motions with all this. I hope that you're not giving me the middle finger at some point because I've worked out the censorship.
That one?
I got to work out a blurred image, John.
What about that one, huh?
Nope, that's not going to happen either. Anyway,
what about that?
get your hand out of my face. May 3rd, Kingdom Pro Wrestling After Dark, going to be at the 201 Tapas Lounge in Savannah, Georgia. VIP doors open at 7, general admissions at 7:30, and bell time is at 8. Don't miss out on that. It's going to be a great event. May 4th, a couple events going on. The Guardians Legacy presents May Day in Panama City, Florida at the Rosenwald High School Gym at 6 p.m. Go check that out. Also May 4th, New South Pro Wrestling presents the Bunkhouse Stampede at the Singing River Brewery in Florence, Alabama. Doors open at 6:30. Bell time's at 7:30. A few more events, and then we're going to get into the segment here in just a little bit. May 11th, Awesome Wrestling and Remarkable Entertainment presents Roar of the Bear at the Baker County K-12 School Gymnasium in Newton, Georgia. Doors open at 6. Show starts at 6:30. May 17th and 18th, Kraken Pro Wrestling is going to be presenting Kraken for a Cause and the Kraken Classic. Kraken is going to be crowning their first ever champion in this 2-day event. A tournament's going to be going on. Would you stop? If you're listening, you can't tell, but he's just over here mimicking me the entire time, but all you can see it on video. I need to get a new co-host. But anyway, May 17th and 18th, Kraken Pro Wrestling is going to be going on, a 2-day event with the Alzheimer's Association fundraiser for the longest day event. Tifton, Georgia, at the American Legion Fairgrounds, 7 p.m. will be the 17th, and May 18th is going to be at 2 p.m. Don't miss out on it. We're going to be there doing commentary. It's going to be a great event. You're going to love it. And finally, May 18th, Southern Wrestling Tradition presents Extraction at the Pavo Peacock Center in Pavo, Georgia. Doors open at 6. Bell time is at 7. A lot of events are going to be going on. A lot of things happening in the world of professional wrestling. But go check it out. It's going to be an incredible event. You don't want to miss it. I'm going to punch this guy in the face here in just a second if he doesn't stop this. You see what I deal with on the regular? This guy is just nuts. I'll put it nicely. He's nuts. But anyway, in light of recent things that have happened this past Wednesday, we thought that we would kind of build on that and do a top 10 segment because we haven't done one in a while.
It's been a while.
And so we thought that we would go off of that and give our top 10 for the worst segments in professional wrestling history. Now, we kind of like broadly went over ours, and so there's going to be a lot of differences in ours and what we thought, because you got Attitude Era, Ruthless Aggression Era. Well, late Ruthless Aggression Era, I guess you could say, but still. We do have a couple similarities just at different points on here, but it's going to be interesting to see what we come up with. And we also want to know what you come up with as far as your worst segments in professional wrestling. But we'll start at number 10 and then work our way up to number 1. So I'll let you kick it off here, John. What did you have for number 10 for your list?
So, coming in at number 10 for me, FTR's back shaving segment. This would be one of the last times we would see FTR on WWE programming before they, rode out their contract and made their way over to AEW, which I'll say, there's not a whole lot of people that I say are better off in AEW than they were in WWE. But I would say FTR is probably better off.
Agreed.
There's in NXT they were fantastic, phenomenal, multi-time 5-star matches of the year with DIY, with Alpha Academy, even with Enzo and Cass. These guys they made the name for themselves in NXT, and you would think that they would be presented like just an absolute pedigreed tag team when they came to the main roster, but such is the luck of a lot of people that came from NXT to the main roster during the Vince's last 5 years. They got softened, repackaged, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
They weren't presented correctly, and instead of being treated like one of the best heel tag teams in the business, they were treated like a joke. And yeah, this one was just the crowning achievement of bad storytelling, bad creative, bad booking for a great tag team. The Usos basically doing a hidden camera segment and catching Cash and Wheeler. shaving each other's backs in the shower.
Yeah,
it's not really funny enough to do, but like it's dumb enough to discredit the tag team.
Right.
So it's like this is just it's one of those classic like Vince McMahon sense of humor, but not the rest of the world's sense of humor.
Yeah, exactly.
Taking a tag team that really could have made a lot of money for your company and just making them look stupid.
Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, that's me. That's number 10. What do you got?
Number 10 for me was the New Day Time Machine segment. This was just dumb on so many levels. It was with their rivalry with the Vaudevillains. They do this segment where they go back in time, and Kofi comes out in his Jamaican persona, doing the whole Jamaican sensation thing, and then I think either Biggie or Xavier pulls him back in, and Kofi's like, "No, come on, man! 2005 was my best year. Come on, don't let me go back," or whatever, or 2010, whatever it was. But this whole segment was just really cheesy and didn't really do much for the rivalry. It just kind of made it look stupid and silly, which I get it. New Day is a comical trio, and they are funny to watch and funny to see in backstage segments. But this segment, to me, just kind of fell flat.
Well, at the end of the day, that's the whole thing. Is like there's funny, and there's funny that doesn't hurt a wrestler. It only makes them more appealing, relevant. You can connect with them more. You appreciate them more. And then there's funny that just makes the wrestler look stupid. There's funny that insults the fans.
Right.
And so I think both of ours are essentially the same thing. It's like, you take good talent, and the New Day it's a funny act, but there was the New Day acts that were funny, and then the New Day acts that were just straight stupid.
Yeah.
And that's what this was. Same thing with FTR and the backshaving segment. Like, those guys could be funny, but in that situation, it didn't make them look funny. It made them look dumb.
Right, exactly.
It made them look ridiculous. Like, how am I supposed to take
it's
them
like
serious?
You said, it just discredited their seriousness as a tag team.
Yep.
But moving on to number 9, what you got?
Number 9, Vince revealed as the higher power. So after a very, a well done, long storyline, it had different turns, here and there, some better than others, but overall a decent storyline for the Ministry of Darkness and the higher power. The reveal to be Vince McMahon didn't do anything for anybody.
Yeah.
It didn't make Vince look any better. In fact, it made him look sillier. It didn't make The Undertaker look realistic. He just looked like Vince's you-know-what.
Yeah.
It didn't increase the rivalry between Austin and Vince.
Right.
I often think about, if they would have introduced a different wrestler as the higher power, what could that have done for any wrestler at that point? Obviously, it would have had to have been the right person with the right mystique, character, power, booking. A lot of things would have to go right for it to be better, but I just remember thinking, like, whoever the higher power was going to be a big deal. And then when I saw Vince McMahon as the higher power, I was like...
It was like, seriously?
Oh, well... wait, so why did the corporation break up to join the Ministry of Darkness when it was just the same leader the entire time?
Right.
So that was, to me, that was a bad segment. Not just a segment, it was a storyline, but it was a terrible ending to a storyline. And that just shows, like, one segment can really hurt a lot of things.
Yeah, definitely. And so my number 9 also has to do with Vince, but mine was Vince's limousine exploding. See, to me, like, this was the dumbest way to write off someone from television. It's like, okay, you see that Vince just get in the car or get in the limo, and then as soon as the door shuts, boom! This huge explosion just happens, and everybody's just like, what did we just see? And then literally not that long after, or I don't remember how long it was, you see Vince McMahon in a hospital bed, and it's like, what was... Okay, wait, so we just saw his limo explode as he got in. Like, so what was the point of the explosion? Like, was this supposed to be like some kind of whodunit thing? But really, there was nothing afterwards. It was just limo exploded, and that's it. We don't see Vince for a lot of time.
No, you remember what happened after that one was, right? The next thing, like, well, they had so what preceded the Vince McMahon's limousine explosion was the Vince McMahon appreciation night.
Oh,
which
yeah,
was
that's
all
right.
everybody just crapping on Vince the whole time, and then like he has the slow walk, and then he blows up, and then there's supposed to be like a Vince memorial, but nobody gives a darn, and
Right.
so then he comes back and he's all angry because nobody cares that he died.
Right.
And it was just like, we knew you didn't die in the first place.
Exactly. Like,
why
we
are
knew
we
that.
supposed to have cared?
Yeah.
This was I think this was one of those where I
feel like this one was more of an ego trip for Vince than anything.
well-
this was to see
this
what
wasn't-
would happen.
This wasn't far after the whole Hornswoggle revealed as his illegitimate child
Yeah.
storyline too. Like, this wasn't a
I
bad
forgot
series.
to put that on there, but yeah, that was another
This
dumb
was a
segment.
bad series of storylines for Vince that really is like all it did was weaken the Vince McMahon character. It didn't make him more you couldn't connect with him more, you didn't hate him more. Nothing about any of this made you feel anything other than like sorry for the people who had to help put it together.
Yeah, exactly. All right, number 8. What you got?
Number 8. If my phone would stop closing after every. There we go. Number 8. I've got Snitsky causing Lita's miscarriage.
I forgot about that one.
Yeah. Unfortunately, not the only miscarriage related segment on my list, or that WWE tried to pass along on live TV.
Yeah.
But Lita getting knocked off the ropes by Snitsky, and then that causing the miscarriage of an unborn child that she was pregnant with Kane, even though we were supposed to believe that she wasn't wanting to be married to Kane, yet
Right.
somehow they still managed to make the beast with 2 backs, and conception occurred, and then you've got the I miscarried, and Snitsky, instead of being like a normal person would be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, oh my gosh, I feel so terrible. He's like, I didn't do anything.
It wasn't my fault.
It wasn't my fault. Which is a classic quote at this point, but for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, definitely.
Good Lord, this was a time period of WWE that was quite regrettable and does not age well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Anything done in the early 2000s to mid 2000s was very, very, what's the word I'm looking for?
Bad?
Bad, yeah. For lack of a better word, it was bad.
It's just bad.
Yeah, so many bad things. So my number 8 was the Bailey "This Is Your Life" segment that Alexa Bliss held in the ring. For me, this was a knockoff of Mick Foley's thing with The Rock, where he did "This Is Your Life, Rock," and he had a bunch of people from Rock's past.
Unfortunately, Bailey and Alexa Bliss, as good as they are not Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Mick "Mankind" Foley.
No, they are not. Not knocking them at all.
But this was
not
born to fail before it was ever launched.
Well, the thing was, like, the one that was playing Bailey's best friend or former best friend or whichever, you could tell the fear and the confusion in her face when the crowd started doing chants and when they were starting to like say things to her. She looked like a deer in headlights, looking at Alexa, looking at her, looking at the other guys that was in there. This whole thing was just a train wreck from the beginning until the end of it, and so that for me, this was my number 8. It was just a disaster. Such a disaster.
It was bad. I mean, you take Alexa, who actually is pretty decent on the mic, and Bailey, who's at the time was a very endearing face.
It's just crazy.
I mean, at the end of the day, like, it should have, I said Alexa, so now the machine's like, shut up!
Anyway.
Teach her who to talk over. Next time I'll be giving you 5 across the eyes. All right. But you take somebody super likable like Bailey, and then you take Alexa Bliss, and you think, hey, this has got to go somewhere. and it goes nowhere.
Absolutely nowhere.
Every joke, everything fell flat. It was, you're watching it and you're like, how much longer is this going to go on? Like,
right.
can
it's
this
like,
be over?
Can she come out already before anything else goes bad?
It was one of those where like, hey, I could go for a commercial break right about now.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, that's a pretty. I remember that's a pretty bad one, but it didn't make my list. But the next one we got number 7, the debut of the Shockmaster / anything involving the Dungeon of Doom.
Yeah, that was embarrassing.
The sparkly stormtrooper, also known as John Tenta, Earthquake.
Yeah.
The bad promo, the bad entrance and falling, and like
that was my favorite part of that whole thing was just him breaking through the wall and then just like.
Well, the part that really gets me is like I would think that was filmed.
Yeah.
Could they not do another take?
I guess not.
Like why would you let that? After the success of I am the Shockmaster, wouldn't you think maybe let's film a couple takes of the entrance?
Yeah, before you go with that one.
Maybe not go live. Like, maybe this character is something that we just do vignettes of, and we don't present live to the team immediately. But no.
But thankfully, things worked out for Tenta to where he could portray Earthquake instead. So.
I don't think anything worked out for anybody in that.
That after he dropped the whole Shockmaster thing, it was Earthquake, and then he was with the natural disasters with Typhoon and all of them. That was better.
He was already Earthquake before that.
Wait, was he Earthquake before that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I got my timelines mixed up here.
These kids here, they think they know things. They're dangerous. Because they think they know things and they don't know anything.
Hey.
But you know what? Someone's got to get paid to sit next to this Gen Z.
You're getting paid?
Don't worry about it.
All right. Number 7 for me, I had the Trish Bark Like a Dog segment with Vince. This, I know it's probably different for you. And I know you've got it a little bit higher up on your list, but...
Yeah, because I'm a decent human being.
Well, see, and I have some that are just as bad, but see, for me, some of these were hard to gauge because there's a lot of ones that make you feel a different kind of way, but they're all cringeworthy.
Yeah, this made everybody feel a certain kind of way.
This
is coming from an Attitude Era kid who watched a lot of bra and panties matches and never batted an eye to them.
See, and that's the thing. Like, you grew up in a different era. I grew up in the Ruthless Aggression era.
I would think you would have this one even higher than me because you grew up in the Safe Space era.
Well, still, but for me, this one was definitely one of those segments that made everybody feel extremely uncomfortable, and really, it didn't do much for anybody.
I will say no.
I will say it made Vince look super evil.
Yes,
in this.
It made
did that.
Vince look super evil. But the thing is like where this one definitely gets a higher ranking for me is that not only was that bad when it happened, it has aged so poorly.
Yeah, definitely.
Dude, this thing has aged like whole milk in a 100-degree beach cup.
Yeah, this is not one of WWE's finest moments at all. Or Vince's, for that matter.
Dude.
That was rough. So, moving on to number 6. We don't want to get too into that because that's just really uncomfortable. Number 6, we actually... agreed on this one.
This one's pretty funny. Like, the fact that we actually had like a tie. Like, but go ahead.
So this one we put Bobby Lashley's sisters segment with Sami Zayn.
This was so bad.
This was extremely embarrassing, and it just absolutely destroyed any credibility that Sami Zayn had, and it just put him on a downward spiral from there.
It ruined Sami Zayn's credibility. It made Bobby Lashley look stupid. I felt bad for the 3 women who were portraying Bobby Lashley's sisters.
Yeah.
Like, there was no one who succeeded. No one came out a winner from this segment.
No.
This was... I don't even know what to call it. Like, it wasn't like
It was just a disaster.
It wasn't like it was just like an oblivion of racism or like stereotypes or low hanging fruit type. It was just dumb. It was dumb. It was boring. It didn't have a direction.
No.
You're watching and you go, what am I watching? And then when you got done, you're like, why am I still watching this?
Yeah, exactly. It's like you don't know what you're watching, but at the same time, you're still trying to figure out how this makes sense in any capacity.
Well, it's one of those where you're like, if somebody that you know is like, let's say my wife and I were either dating or recently married when this skit went live.
Yeah.
And she was up to that point, no problem watching pro wrestling with me. Like, I remember pro wrestling from the 90s. And then we watched this segment, and she goes, why do you watch this? And I said, I don't know.
Yeah. One of those moments that makes you go, why do I watch pro wrestling?
My parents dropped me on my head a few times when I was a kid. But I was okay.
That explains so much.
What?
This explains so much now. Now I get it.
Well, I'm so much better looking than you?
No.
It's genetics.
I don't think so. Anyway, so that was our number 6. We had a tie for that one. Who you got for number 5?
So because I'm a moral human being with a soul, I put Trish Barks Like a Dog at number 5 because I definitely think it deserved at least a top 5 spot, considering that a young lady was debased publicly and dehumanized in front of thousands of people live and hundreds of thousands of people on TV. And like I said, this was like an inflection point of women deserve better.
Yeah.
Like, and I'll say,
Definitely.
like, I'm not claiming that I was, quick to the game of the new movement of feminism or the women's revolution, but I remember this segment saying, no one deserves to be treated to talk like this is not something that we do, even character work.
Right. Well, I mean, it I won't say it's the equivalent of how Ted DiBiase did the things whenever he did those little challenges and
not
stuff.
at all. Those
things were still.
Those were comical. They didn't, like, him taking the ball away from a kid before he could bounce it 10 times in a row makes Ted DiBiase look like a jerk.
Yeah,
and it makes you feel.
Well, he also made a woman bark as well, but at the same time,
he did not make her bark the same way that Trish was barking.
No, it wasn't the same way. That's what I'm saying. Like, it wasn't the same way.
Yeah,
but yeah, the way that Vince McMahon went about it was super, just like sinister. That's the best way I can say it.
It's uncomfortable. It's the kind of thing where you're sitting in a room with something and you're like, if I don't say something at this point, I'm culpable for what's going on.
Exactly.
And it made it, and for that, like I said, I think this was an inflection point for a lot of people where they were kind of sick and tired of the way that women were being, debased and treated in professional wrestling, and said, okay, we actually respect women and we would like to see them equally contribute to the show and not just be,
just being the eye candy
and just something to degrade.
Exactly.
So yeah, to me this was higher on the list. It was an important segment, but not for the right reasons.
Right. Number 5 for me was the Mae Young giving birth to a hand segment.
Once again, you are a sick pervert. And you only here's
the thing. I grew up in a different time, so I don't remember these segments vividly as I do some of the other ones. And
I remember this segment vividly. I remember the whatever lubricant gel they used and overly applied to the hand, and when they pulled it out, and it was like, it looked like it had been triple battered in KY jelly.
Oh gosh, I don't even want to think about it.
Yeah, no, I often have vivid nightmares involving that hand to this day.
Yeah, well, I mean, just this whole storyline or this whole segment with Mark Henry and Mae Young.
And I'd also like to point out that hand was far too white to be Mark Henry's progeny's appendage.
But still, this whole storyline or segment was just uncomfortable on a whole other level.
Well, yeah, just from the very beginning of it, just about everything that Mae Young did from the late 90s until her passing made my pinkle wrinkle. Gave me a reverse chode. Sent the rocket to the core and not towards space. Took out the bounce on my trampoline.
Okay, I think we get it. We understand.
But no, this Mae Young segment for already like being uncomfortable, like with like you'd have the moments where you'd have the video of Mark and Mae in the same bed together, and then she's talking about being pregnant, and then she tried to show us all her puppies, and I remember the first time I ever in my entire life where when someone said, "Do you want to see my puppies?" I said or thought to myself, "No, for the love of God, no." I'm just a boy. But then when this happened, and you see, and the hand comes out, and it's got like, it looked like what's the thing from Ghostbusters just flew right through you?
You would ask
one
me
of
that.
the green ghosts,
slime.
Slimer.
Yeah.
It looked like the hand that Slimer just passed through, like. Ugh. Like if you lubricate anything that much, you're doing it too much.
But yeah, anyway, that for me was number 5. So getting into our top 5, we already did number 5. Who you got for number 4?
So number 4, I have one of our most recent, and actually the reason that inspired this top 10 list, and that would be the AEW All-In footage from this last week's Dynamite.
See, and I've got this one a little bit higher, but I'll let you go ahead and say why you've got this one just a little bit lower.
So honestly, this one's almost number 1, but to me it's too new to really see just how terrible this one's gonna be. So again, I got it in the top 5, and it's brand new, fresh as a daisy.
Yeah.
But
that just shows how bad this whole thing was.
That's just how bad it was. Like honestly, I don't know what's going to be the worst segment to live out the time of professional wrestling. If it's going to be this one, and I'll go ahead and spoil my number 1, is it going to be this or is it the finger poke of doom? Like the finger poke of doom or the Perry choke in Tony's room? Like which one is worse? And the fact that Tony Khan said he was afraid for his life during what we saw on Wednesday, first of all, this did not make CM Punk look bad at all.
No.
Second of all, good on AEW for figuring out a way to get a CM Punk boost to ratings without having to employ CM Punk. That's about the only good part of this entire segment, is that it was probably the highest rated segment for AEW in the last 2 to 3 months.
Yeah, well, especially since Punk's no longer with them anymore.
Yeah, I was like, this guy's still your top draw, and he's not even been in your company for like 6 months.
Yeah.
But this segment did nothing to make AEW look good. It did not make the Bucks look good. It did not make Tony Khan look good. It made Tony Khan look like a sissy little bitch.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you're going to censor that one. Can I just say it and then you'll censor it later?
Yeah, just say it.
He looked like a little just crying for his mommy.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is that fight lasted longer than me and my first go around. Okay. It was like an 8-second ride. Okay. It was like riding the bronking bull. Okay. That thing was nothing. Okay. There was nothing to it. It was a waste of our time. It was a waste of a segment. It made Tony look stupid. It made AEW look stupid. It made Punk look perfectly fine, which makes WWE look even smarter for getting him. And
I wonder if we're going to hear a rebuttal from CM Punk tonight.
No, he doesn't have to say anything.
Well, he's not going to say anything directly about it, but he's probably going to make like a little hint.
Oh, he should definitely make fun of them in some way. But like, truth be told, like that to me, that video closed the book on the whole situation.
Yeah,
like you want to know
nothing more to say.
Yeah, no. Why is CM Punk not there? Because
of stupid crap like that.
Because of stupid crap like that, Tony Khan allowing his locker room to just basically run the roost and have no oversight, no control, no leadership. Like, this is one of those things where I wonder, does AEW even have another couple of years in them at this rate?
Yeah.
After a segment like that.
Absolutely. And we'll definitely talk a little bit more about that after we do our top 10, because I definitely want to talk a little bit more about what other people have said in response to this whole segment, but we'll get into that after we do our segment here. But number 4 for me was the segment with the Bella Twins, where I think it was Nikki said to Brie, I wish you had died in the womb. This is one of those where it's also where it's as well very cringy, and everybody was just like, that is so stupid. Like, we know that you're not being real. We know that this whole thing is not real. And so it was just, it did nothing for them, and it did nothing for their rivalry that they had going on at the time. So this is just another one of those that was just super cringy and so off the wall that should not have been said.
Well, it's also one of those too where they were not the right kind of performers for any of that in the first place. Like,
right.
They were never that good. Like,
they weren't that good on the mic.
I'm gonna, if it wasn't for exhibits T and A on Nikki Bella, there's no reason the Bella twins would even have relevance in the modern conversation. Like, they weren't good. They weren't good in the mic. They weren't good in the ring, but they were good to look at. And Nikki more than Brie. But the fact of the matter is those girls couldn't act their way out of a paper box, and to try to deliver lines like that with sincerity, with believability, they were never even close to being able to do that. And so, yeah, the biggest problem with that is that they should never even been put in that situation, to begin with.
Yeah,
like, you've got to know where your talents are, and if you've got a talent, like, you've got a Mick Foley, you've got an Undertaker, you've got Rock, you've got Austin, you've got as far as women go, you take somebody like a Charlotte, a Becky, a Bailey, not Bailey so much,
Alexa Bliss,
maybe Alexa Bliss. I mean, there's plenty of women who have had the ability to be believable.
Yeah,
but these women were never known for their believability on the mic or their mic acumen at all. And so watching that, it was just like, this is so dumb.
Yeah,
this is so dumb.
Really dumb.
Like, Bring It On was a decent movie, not because of the storyline, but because of the amount of, clavage that you got to watch. That's the story of the Bella Twins' career as well.
Pretty much. All right, so now we get into our top three. So who or what segment have you got for number 3 on yours?
Well, so we already talked about my number 3, and that's the Mae Young giving birth to a hand. Right. I put it in the top 3 because, once again, I'm not a sick, deranged prevert. And a singular hand, amputated hand coming out of an 80-year-old woman ranks higher to me than number 5.
Again,
sicko.
Grew up in a different time period, did not see this segment all the way through. I had to go back and see this in its entirety, but still, grew up in a different time period, had different experiences.
Time period?
Yeah.
I don't care.
You're just a little bit older.
I don't care what the time period is. A severed hand coming out of an 80-year-old woman justifies more than number 5, no matter what time period you're in, Cody.
It's still top 5, okay? Give me that. It's in my top 5 just like it is yours. Anyway.
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and go with my 2.
All right. I hadn't done my 3 yet.
Well, all right. Well, do your 3, you pervert.
Whatever. Anyway, my number 3 was Hornswoggle is revealed as the anonymous Raw general manager. To me, this was one of the single-handedly most absurd and asinine things that WWE has ever done with a segment. Number 1, the anonymous Raw general manager segment was a complete joke from the get-go. Why in the world would you have a computer that chimes in with this stupid text tone and then have Michael Cole give one of these single worst catchphrases in WWE history? Can I have your attention, please? I have just received an email from the anonymous Raw general manager. He gets up from the table, puts on his glasses that he doesn't need at the time, and goes, and I quote,
yeah,
this whole thing was stupid. Like, you should have just given Michael Cole the shot at being the Raw general manager, because essentially he was.
This was one of those periods in WWE where the writing and storylines were so bad that I had to take a pause.
Yeah, same.
Like,
it was horrible.
I stopped. I would check in, via the internet and stuff like that on WWE, but I was watching TNA. I was watching ROH. I was watching anything that wasn't this.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, I almost stopped watching professional wrestling as a whole during this time period.
Yeah.
Because everything was so bad.
Yeah.
But
And
this was kind of I don't know, after the whole Hornswoggle is Vince's illegitimate child, for the fact that they had
Oh
yet
my
another
gosh,
storyline
yeah.
that they build up, and then the reveal of this person who it could have really benefited in some way, shape, or form, some kind of believable character.
But
no,
the fact that
it
it
was
was
Hornswoggle.
Hornswoggle.
It did. I mean, there's no payoff. Like,
No.
this entire thing it becomes a joke, but it's like, this was a really stupid reason to tell a joke. This is a really long, drawn out, dumb joke.
Yeah. So yeah, that for me was number 3. What do you got for number 2?
Number 2, hard to pick between this one and my first, which I already said my first, but number 2 could be number 1. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just you vote with your heart. Number 2 is the Katie Vick segment.
So for all of our younger viewers or younger listeners, kind of give them a little story as to this whole thing and what the Katie Vick.
So let me take you back to a magical time. It's called 2002.
Yeah. So
It's
a little
called
bit after I got into it.
2002. Austin and Rock are no longer fixtures fully on the everyday Raw and SmackDown shows. We're entering a new era of the ruthless aggression, and the Monday Night Raw champion, the world champion, the wearer of the big gold belt, is Triple H. And Triple H at this time, I want to say, yeah, he has the DX and his gang with him, and Kane is a good guy. He's I think he's still using the talk box a little, not a whole lot. He's sometimes using the microphone, sometimes using the talk box. But the Kane character has become a sympathetic character after the last couple of years of just watching him get abused by the McMahons, the corporation, various other people.
Right.
He's been in a tag team with X-Pac. He was in a tag team with RVD at this time. And so the Kane character, which was already a very over character, was getting over as a face like it never had been done before. And we're thinking this is the birth of a new major, character.
Yeah.
No.
Nope. Explain what happened.
So, in the build towards their championship match, which would eventually lead to a demasking of Kane, but in the build before this, Triple H and Kane are going back and forth, and Triple H basically says, "You're going to do what I tell you to do, or else I'm going to air footage, or I'm going to tell the world about your deep, dark secret."
Right.
And we're wondering, well, this guy, he's the Undertaker's little brother who the Undertaker thought was dead, and he's Hell's favorite demon and la-di-da and all this. Like, what could be a dark secret that we don't already know about Kane?
Right.
Into the video.
Yeah. I completely forgot about this whenever I was doing my top 10. I don't know how I forgot it, but yeah.
So in a video that's not very believable, we're supposed to Triple H and his goons show a video of Kane, which is very obviously Triple H wearing a Kane mask, having an epileptic seizure on top of a plastic love puppet.
Yeah. We'll put it that way. That's about as PG as we can put it. Yeah. I don't know how I stumbled upon this. It was a while ago. Like, I can't remember how long ago it was, but I remember seeing this and I thought, there's no way that this aired on TV.
No, it did. It did. And it actually would spur on, in my lifetime, the first time I ever took a break from professional wrestling.
Right.
Yeah, it was pretty darn bad.
Yeah.
And it made Triple H look stupid. It made Kane look stupid. The way the unmasking was done, I often wonder how that would have came across had the Katie Vick segment not been a part of this storyline.
Right.
it didn't help anybody. And in fact, not only did it not help anybody involved, it actually is one of the primary reasons that Steve Borden Sting elected not to join the WWE when his WCW contract had run out. So yeah, not only
Smart
did this,
decision.
Yeah, not only did this ruin a really good possible storyline between two, WWE Hall of Famers, Kane and Triple H. But yeah, it's one of the things that led to us not getting Sting in the WWE. And though he would go on to have a fantastic career in TNA, I would have preferred the possibility of a Sting in WWE during that time when he and The Undertaker would have both been still in the prime of their careers.
Absolutely.
So yeah, in the long run, not only was this bad, this was terrible.
100% terrible. Number 2 for me, like I said, I had the All-In footage a little bit higher, so the All-In footage was number 2 in my list. Just of how much damage this did, more than it did excel anything. All it did was just bring in the numbers, like you said. It brought in higher ratings, but at the expense
not high
of someone,
enough to justify what it did. Though.
Exactly. No, nowhere near high enough to justify anything on there. And so, yeah, just this whole segment and the whole idea of revealing the footage from backstage, like we said before, it just solidified everything that CM Punk said in his interview about how the situation happened. And so, yeah, for me, this was number 2. And so now we get into our number 1. So, like I said, we both have totally different number 1s. His, I didn't think about until it was too late, but this was just number 1 for me at the time that it happened, and I'll give a reason as to why. But go ahead and give your number 1.
So my number 1 is probably a lot of people's number 1 who are, between the ages of, I'd say 32, 50, maybe 50 years old. But the Finger Poke of Doom. To me, the Finger Poke of Doom will forever go down as the worst segment in the history of professional wrestling, and it will go down as the inflection point and the absolute, the end. It marked the end for WCW during the Monday Night Wars.
For those of you that don't know, kind of give a brief synopsis of
the Finger Poke of Doom. The Finger Poke of the Doom was a fallout after what would have been one of WCW's most promising stories. So WCW, they bring in the NWO storyline in '96, and from basically '96 until just about mid '99. The NWO, for better or for worse, was the hottest thing going in professional wrestling. You'd see DX come along and combat against the NWO and WWF. Stone Cold's build had come on, but the NWO, for WCW was still very strong. And you had the NWO Wolfpack, the NWO White and Black. I mean, you even had the LWO. I mean, you had all kinds of different iterations, and it was getting a lot of wrestlers over. Now, granted, it started to lose its luster as they introduced more and more people, and it lost its original appeal. But so the NWO is hot as can be, and they build the Sting character, and that's hot as can be. But then you have a completely failed opportunity between Sting and Hogan at Sold Out. And so you think, okay, well, they botched that, and then they bring in the Ultimate Warrior, botched that. They bring in all these people to decrown Hollywood Hulk Hogan, and nobody seems to be the one to do it. Well, time goes on, and Kevin Nash becomes the real face of the NWO.
Right.
And Goldberg is our undefeated world champion at 180 plus undefeated streak, multiple years going. And so Nash versus Goldberg, and Swerve, babyface Kevin Nash, gets assistance by the heels and Hogan and Scott Hall, and they use cattle prods and all kinds of stupid crap to beat Goldberg and for Kevin Nash to win the title. So the next night after Kevin Nash wins the title, and what would have been like a WrestleMania, level pay-per-view and all that, you're like, okay, this is the beginning of a new era. And they have Hulk Hogan come out and challenge Kevin Nash, and it seems like it's going to be, basically Kevin Nash. Like you're waiting for Kevin Nash to beat Hulk Hogan and put the stamp, this is the new era, they're going in a different direction. And not to mention, this is the same night that the put butts in seats statement was made, where that actually did put butts in seats, and people stopped watching WCW and went over to watch Mankind win his first world title against The Rock and have one of the biggest pops of all time when Stone Cold Steve Austin came to help him out. But at the same time as that was going on, this segment goes on, and Hulk Hogan and Kevin Nash are squaring off against each other, and what happens? Well, Hulk Hogan puts his finger on Kevin Nash like this, and Nash takes a powder to the ground. Hogan covers 1, 2, 3, and Hogan is the champion again. And an even more disgusting return to the same old crap as WrestleMania 9, where Brett beats Yoko, and then Hogan beats Brett, and then Hogan's the champion yet again that nobody asked for. That's exactly what happened the night of the Finger Poke of Doom.
Right.
And between the Finger Poke of Doom and Mick Foley winning the world title, that was the last time that you could even consider it to be a fair matchup between WCW and WWF. From 100%. That point on, WCW chased WWE and got farther and farther away until one night in Panama City Beach, Vince showed up on Nitro's cam.
Yeah.
And that was a worst segment of all time, the Finger Poke of Doom.
100%. So, like I said, different time period. So, Finger Poke of Doom was his. For me, this was more on not just overall, but just the absurdity, but the grossness of this segment. For me, number one, in my opinion, on my personal top 10 was when the Boogeyman ate the mole off of Jillian's face. So, I don't know if you call it a mole or a growth or whatever it was or whatever they called it, but so this is like mid to late 2000s. The Boogeyman and JBL are in a rivalry with each other, and Jillian is JBL's valet. And so they're on Piper's Pit. JBL and Jillian are on Piper's Pit, and there's some kind of growth or whatever that's on the side of Jillian's face. And of course, Piper makes jokes about it, all this other stuff. And then Boogeyman comes out.
Nice to know you. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you, Mo. Don't say Mo. Mo.
But
mole, 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 mole.
For those of you that don't know, go watch Austin Powers. But so Boogeyman comes in, and JBL, of course, runs for his life. Piper gets out of the ring. Jillian is paralyzed with fear, and the Boogeyman gives that little crazy eye and looking at the side of her face, and is like, what is this? And grabs her by the face and at first licks it, and we're all just like, oh gosh, this is disgusting. But then he makes it 1,000 times worse. As if eating live worms on TV wasn't enough, this sicko pretty much just inhales her cheek and just rips this thing off of her face. And they give a close-up of him chewing it on TV. I'm like, why are you showing this?
You think it was a Tootsie Pop? Or maybe like a little Tootsie Roll or like a little bit of Tootsie? Or
I don't
like
know what it was like. I was about this close to throwing up from just watching this segment. Like, I was...
That's one way to...
dry heaving.
That's one way to do a character production change, on the spot.
I mean, just the thought of it right now is just... I'm trying not to dry heave just thinking about it, but... This whole segment
chop it up and make some guacamole.
No. You're an idiot. But yeah, for me, that was my number one. This was so disgusting and just absolutely pointless. It's like, we saw her on TV last week. This was not there. Then fast forward to now. How did this thing get to about the size of a McGriddle on her face? And so, yeah, that one for me was number one. But... those are our top 10.
Check your moles. A public service announcement from the 5-star jobbers.
Go to your dermatologist,
okay?
People. Go check it out.
Don't be holy moly. Okay? Be no moly.
But anyway, guys, that's our top 10 for worst segments of professional wrestling. Let us know what your top 10 is. If you got a different one, if you have some that weren't even on our list that we forgot about, let us know in the comments. Let us know on our social media. We'd like to hear it. But yeah, just a lot of these, and definitely some other ones that I'm sure we missed along the way. But Top 10 worst segments of all time, by far. All right, John, you ready for some reviews?
If we must.
Of course. It's what we do. It's what the people know us for. But
Is
anyway,
it really?
Yeah.
It's not just for my incredibly good looks?
No, that's what they try and turn away from. But anyway, high spots and botches. I'm really not going to get into botches because
We've already talked about the
we've already talked about the main botch.
Do you want to talk about the high spot? Can we say it together? Like, we'll close our eyes?
Yeah, I'll close my eyes and we'll give a countdown. Ready?
All right, 3, 2, 1.
Tama-Tonga! Yes! Tama-Tonga
guys.
is in WWE, a part of the bloodline, made his debut on SmackDown. I was so excited. Like, I thought that it was going to happen, but I didn't think it was going to happen so soon.
Never thought it was going to happen. Like, I mean, the fact of the matter is, I mean, like, after all these years, like, as they were building the bloodline, I wanted it to happen.
Yes.
Like, you take a guy who's been in the Bullet Club for probably longer than anybody else that's been in the Bullet Club.
Yeah, honestly, I think he's probably the longest standing member of the Bullet
one
Club.
of the most over wrestlers in Japan that we've ever pulled.
Yeah.
Minus Shinsuke and AJ?
Yeah, I'll put AJ in the mix
Well,
there.
because AJ came from NJPW. I mean, he obviously was a TNA guy, but he came from NJPW when they pulled him to WWE.
Well, and Finn Balor.
And Finn Balor. Yeah, okay, Finn Balor. So like you have Shinsuke, Finn, and AJ. But like WWE doesn't do a whole lot of NJPW stealing.
Right.
Like,
this was probably one of the biggest pulls from New Japan.
yes, that's what I'm saying.
In history.
But like during the Bloodline build, I kept like wanting Tama-Tonga to come during that build, and then when they brought in Solo, I liked Solo.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of Solo, but I gave up hope on Tama coming in. I was like, that was the time to bring him in. Da 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 da. And then now for Solo to be doing his own thing, which I think is great. He needs, as a character, he needs to grow, and he needs to grow in a way that doesn't like shoot him down to the bottom of relevancy.
Right.
Like happens to a lot of people who come in really, really hot. Is they come in really, really hot, and then when the first storyline ends, it's like loss, loss, loss of credibility. You're a joke now.
And then nobody believes that you're going to win anything serious or get a major title.
While that's sitting there going on, I'm like, where's the swerve? I'm like, I can smell the swerve. I'm feeling it. I know what's going to happen, but I'm like, what's it going to be? Who's it going to be? How is it going to be done? And so for then it's Tama. I mean, good Lord, like I still pop bigger from for Taker at WrestleMania, but this
same.
I think was almost as big of a swerve pop, and all within like 10 days.
Yeah,
like WWE, I love you so much. You're making me so happy to be a wrestling fan again.
We are in the Paul Levesque era, ladies and gentlemen, and so far it's going phenomenally well.
Fan freaking tastic.
Honestly, I would not be surprised if they. I won't go on record and say it, but from the way things are going, unless something happens, I would not be surprised within the next WrestleMania that AEW becomes an afterthought.
Yeah, no, I mean if they continue where they're at with WWE right now, like I mean TNA had the chance to kind of become a third top conversation. They got rid of the wrong people. And right now with AEW making some of the choices there, if they don't right the ship real hard, real quick, they're not going to be the second major promotion or they're not going to be a relevant promotion a year from now, because WWE is going to be basically, I mean, it already feels like it. Like I said, with that AEW segment, it feels like 99, early 99 like late 98, early 99, where WCW was no longer just as good as WWE, and it was both of them are can't miss, and it becomes, well, one of them's more can't miss than the other.
Right.
And then at that, say by like late 99, early 2000s, you're like, I'll watch WCW, but I'll really watch WWF.
Right. Like,
and
I'll just catch what's going on.
Yep. Just
so that way I don't miss anything important. But at the same time, I'm mostly invested in WWE.
I have the internet now. I don't even have to watch AEW now to keep track of things. Like back then, you at least had the benefit. Like back then, they at least had the benefit of like, if I didn't watch WCW just like a little bit, I wouldn't know what was going on until like way later. So I still had to like watch it just to have some level of interest. But now with the internet, I don't have to have any level of interest in AEW to keep up with what's going on.
Right.
And truthfully, they don't give
the Bleacher Report, and that's all I do to keep up with it.
Yeah. And at this point, if I'm talking to anybody, unless you're just like an all-out diehard, like just straight all wrestling, no storyline, no value of production, no believability of characterization. Unless you're into that kind of thing, you're a butt toucher or like a sniffer of some kind. Don't waste your time with AEW. WWE's right now. They're offering exactly what we've been asking for years and years and years. They're offering the product we want to see,
absolutely,
with storylines that are compelling, bringing in new characters, bringing in over wrestlers from other promotions, and not pretending like they're not over from day one just because they're new to the company.
Right, and it's going to be interesting because the draft will be coming up in a few weeks, and so I really hope that this is the caveat to where they actually have a brand split and where it's actually going to stay that way, where you have people that are you're only going to see on Raw and people that you're only going to see on SmackDown.
Yeah.
Because then that creates your rivalry going into Survivor Series, which I hope they keep War Games, because you see all the things on the internet about how people are begging for another Bloodline Civil War, where you've got Roman Reigns coming back and bringing the Usos and Sami Zayn along with them.
Nah, it will never happen.
Yeah, I don't think Sami Zayn will be in the fold. But then you have Solo Sikoa, Tama Tonga, and then possibly Jacob Fatu.
Possibly Jacob Fatu. I mean, honestly, like solos, you could see Solo and Tama and Roman. And then I guess you could see, but see, I would think, I'd see The Rock and Jimmy and Jay.
Yeah, I forgot about The Rock. Yeah, so I mean, honestly, that would be a pretty good one too.
Yeah.
But, well, see, I would reverse that. I'd say The Rock, Solo, and Tama against Roman, Jimmy, and Jay.
No, I think Solo's Roman's kid. At the end of the, like, it doesn't make, like, Solo turning on Roman makes no sense. Solo turning on his brothers makes sense because Jimmy lost. Jay's gone. So it makes easy sense for Jimmy and Jay to reconcile now. They've had their blow up. Jimmy's been ousted from the bloodline, so Jay's going to take him under his wing because he never said he didn't love him or he wouldn't forgive him. In fact, he said the opposite, and we talked about that in one of our build-ups to WrestleMania.
Right.
So it makes all the sense in the world for Jimmy and Jay to get back together, and I think that's really well done because that's a great tag team that just truthfully, like, them as rivals is, as we saw in WrestleMania, is not good as them as a team.
Right.
So, something like Kevin Owens.
It was good for storyline purposes.
And Sami Zayn, like, honestly, like, they're better rivals than they are a tag team. Like,
Definitely.
I'd rather see Sami and Kevin fighting each other than tagging together, even though they're the best of friends.
Right.
But Jimmy and Jay, we love the Usos. People love the Usos. Like, they're better as a tag team than as rivals or as, two separate entities.
Right.
So, bring back Jimmy and Jay. Have The Rock come back and be a face.
I don't know. I like heel Rock, though.
I like heel Rock too, but I honestly, I don't think they ever intended to have heel Rock. They turned into the skid on that one, but it'll be way easier to have face Rock than to have face Roman.
True.
You're not bring Roman back and have him just suddenly become a face.
Yeah.
I mean, unless he survives cancer again, which he may be doing. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, he is right now because he's still having to take medicine for it.
Yeah, he's still having, like, he's constantly living with it. But at the end of the day, like, Roman comes back, Roman's still going to be a heel. Rock can come back and be a face same day.
Yeah, definitely.
But, like, Roman have their final come together like they wanted to have. Build it up to the next WrestleMania. Maybe do it SummerSlam. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But, like, yeah, if you're going to have, like, the 2-on-2 teams, yeah, you've got Rock, you've got the Usos, maybe find somebody else to join their team. And then you've got Roman, you've got Solo, you've got Tama. Yeah, somebody, whether it's Jacob Fatu or somebody else.
Yeah. Either way, it's going to be awesome. I'm excited to see where they go from here with it.
I'm going from 6 to midnight talking about it right now.
Yeah. But I'll end it on this because we're not going to get into our botch because we've already talked enough about it.
The botch is all in backstage reveal.
Absolutely. And so I'll end that whole thing by saying this, and I'll kind of echo what Bully Ray said on Busted Open Podcast. This company needs help
immediately,
desperately, and so I hope that they
and it's not the talent.
I hope that Tony Khan finds some level of management either from outside sources, because Bully Ray has offered his services to him.
Take them.
He does not need a job. He's got Busted Open After Dark. He's got his own training facility, and he's said.
I mean, he's one heck of a referee too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You also have the benefit of input from someone like Scott D'Amore, who is no longer with Impact or TNA.
How he's not running the back of AEW right now? It just proves, I think Tony wants to be in control of this, and he wants to play Mark with his little elite buddies, and just like Eric Bischoff being too buddy with the NWO boys, being a negative for the overall backroom and success of WCW. Tony Khan's relationship with the Young Bucks, and I'm not going to even put anything on Kenny, because Kenny's away right now trying to recover from diverticulitis.
Right.
And Kenny didn't, honestly, other than being with the Bucks during the Brawl Out, Kenny was never associated with any more CM Punk drama than just the one time. So I'm going to put this solely on the Bucks and Tony Khan, maybe a little bit on Adam Page. But I'm not scapegoating Jack Perry. At this point, Jack Perry's a young Punk kid. And like I said for a while, and people didn't, want to agree with me, he's a Punk kid. And then we've got Bully Ray coming on and approving that he is a disrespectful Punk.
Well, and not just him, but others as well. Like, others have given the same stories and saying that Jack Perry was absolutely disrespectful.
Yeah.
Just this arrogant Punk kid.
Yeah, it's because nobody's smarting him up to the business the way that he needs to be smartened up to. And so I can put that on talent and stuff, but at the end of the day, I'm not putting anything on talent when you know that the actual administration and the leadership is as bad and as stupid as AEW's is. Like, at the end of the day, like, professional wrestlers are professional wrestlers, and locker rooms are locker rooms. And if you don't know how to manage a locker room, you dang sure don't need to be running a wrestling promotion.
Absolutely not. Tony Khan is a nice guy with a big wallet, but you cannot buy. You can buy talent, you can buy new wrestlers, you can buy all this other stuff, but you have to be a management and leader figure and have authority, especially when you're in a locker room with professional wrestlers. Vince McMahon commanded that, so does Paul Levesque or Triple H. And
good Lord, Jim Ross did it for years and years and years.
Yeah,
Jim Ross used to be in charge of talent relations for years during a time where you had some seriously big egos to deal with. And, did he always do the best job? No. But you've got guys like Jim Ross, to be under the learning tree of, there's no excuse at this point. You take a guy like Jim Ross, you take a guy like, you've got Fit Finley over there. You've got Jerry Lynn, who worked and learned under the learning tree of Paul Heyman, who ran ECW with all that going on.
You've got much help backstage.
Many people. Dean Malenko. You have so many people whose families ran promotions, who have been part of the best run promotions and worst run promotions.
Arn Anderson.
And can tell you what to do. And Arn Anderson, the enforcer. You've got so many people that demand respect in the locker room that if they were allowed to run things and to be in control and take control of the boys, that it would be an easy situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, what you've got
Any kind of beef backstage would have been squashed behind closed doors and would have been dealt with not in front of public, and not had a Band-Aid put over it by putting one or two other shows out and separating those people.
Yep.
It makes no sense whatsoever. But like we said, and like I said, I'll end it with this. AEW needs help. Desperately and quickly. I'm hoping that this weekend their show, Dynasty, goes over well. But I'm not going to buy it. I'm
not watching it. No.
I'm not watching it. I'll get reports on Bleacher Report and get updates on it from there. There is honestly, there's going to be some good matches on the card, but there's no build-up and there's no storylines in this that I'm invested in at all.
No.
And so I'm just waiting to see what comes of it and just to see how they go from here. But honestly, it's going to have to take some drastic measures for them to get back in everybody's good graces. But anyway, guys, that's our show for this week. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for listening. We appreciate all your support. Like we said before, go follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. You can find all of our content there. If you're ever looking for any more upcoming events, let us know on our social media. Are you going to stop doing that?
When will it stop being funny?
It's not funny, and it never has been funny.
I think it's
I'm trying to be
hilarious.
serious here. I'm trying to talk to the people. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening to our podcast, and thank you so much for watching. We can't thank you enough for all of your support. And like we always like to say, keep it 5 stars.